You were never supposed to witness this. Not now. Not yet. And yet, here you are, listening to something that will outlive you, outlive me, and outlive every atom that forms your body. What you're about to hear isn't prophecy. It's not speculation. It's the slow, scientific death march of the universe playing out on a stage so vast, so cold, so unforgiving, it renders human emotion almost meaningless. And yet, it's that same emotion, wonder, fear, that brings us here, close. Your eyes. Picture everything you've ever known. Every star, every galaxy, every flicker of light ever emitted since the beginning of time. All of it, dying, slowly, silently, and with mathematical certainty. The universe is not infinite in its current form. Its fate is sealed, and science has begun to write the final chapters. It begins not with an explosion, but with a slow dimming. Stars, the furnaces of creation, are not eternal. Their fuel hydrogen is finite. The youngest stars, like children full of energy, burn brightly and quickly. The older ones, like our own sun, pace themselves. But all of them are headed toward the same destination, collapse or extinction. In the distant future, trillions of years from now, star formation will cease. The galaxies will go dark. The stars that remain will fade into cold remnants, white dwarfs, neutron stars, and black holes. No new light will be born. No new heat will emerge. The universe will be a museum of extinguished candles. Imagine a night sky with no stars, not because it's cloudy, but because they're gone forever. Now breathe. Black holes, those cosmic monsters we've only recently begun to understand, will reign in silence, not as creators, but as devourers. They'll consume whatever matter remains, slowly growing, until even they evaporate. Yes, evaporate. Through a process called Hawking radiation. Black holes are not eternal either. They lose mass over unfathomable time scales until they vanish into nothing. We call this the heat death. A universe not exploding in fire, but drowning in cold. Temperature approaching absolute zero. No usable energy. No structure. No possibility of life. Entropy, the cosmic measure of disorder, reaches its maximum. A universe that can no longer do work, can no longer change, can no longer dream. And here's the cruel poetry. None of this is speculative fiction. It's what our best physical models predict. It's what equations cold, uncaring, and precise demand. We aren't just living in a temporary chapter of the cosmos. We are the flicker before the dark. But let's not rush to the ending. Let's slow down time, because ironically, that's exactly what the universe is doing. Expansion, a cosmic swelling of space itself. Galaxies drifting apart at speeds that defy imagination. And this expansion is accelerating. That wasn't always the expectation. For decades, scientists believed the universe's expansion might slow due to gravity, perhaps even reverse. But in 1998, observations of distant supernova revealed something shocking. The universe is expanding faster as it ages. This mysterious driver of acceleration was given a name: dark energy. We don't know what dark energy is. We only know it exists. It accounts for nearly 70% of the universe's total energy content. And it is tearing the universe apart, bit by bit, like seams unraveling in a cosmic fabric. The more space we have, the more dark energy there is, and the faster everything stretches. Eventually, entire galaxy clusters will drift beyond our observable horizon, then individual galaxies, then star systems, then planets, even atoms. If the force of dark energy continues to grow unchecked, it leads to a terrifying theoretical end, the Big Rip, a point where the fabric of space-time itself is ripped asunder. But long before that, the night sky will grow emptier. Civilizations, if any survive, will look up and see nothing but darkness. No stars, no galaxies, no cosmic background radiation, just silence. A silence that isn't just auditory, but existential. Even time becomes strange in these distant epochs. Without change, time loses meaning. What is a second, a year, a millennium, when nothing moves, nothing evolves, and nothing is born? We, as conscious beings, exist in a golden moment, a cosmic breath between the Big Bang and the Great Silence. We are able to observe, to measure, to wonder, and wonder we must. Because our window is temporary, there are other theories too, each more bizarre than the last, yet grounded in math and logic. Vacuum decay, for instance. The idea that the universe exists in a metastable state, like a ball resting in a shallow, valley. A quantum fluctuation could cause it to tunnel through to a lower energy state, rewriting the laws of physics instantly. Everything would cease to be, instantly, silently, no warning, no escape. Or consider the cold collapse. A scenario in which dark matter slows down, gravitational clumping resumes, and the universe reverses. Everything falls inward. Galaxies collide, stars combust, planets vaporize. Space contracts until everything ends in a singularity, a reverse. Big Bang. These aren't stories. They are equations, played out on the chalkboards of theoretical physicists and confirmed in bits and pieces by particle accelerators, space telescopes, and the cosmic microwave background. But what does all this mean for us? For you, sitting there, listening to this? It means that existence is fragile. It means that time is borrowed. It means that consciousness, yours, mine, is not trivial. It's rare. It's a spark in the cold, a whisper before the silence. So, while we have time, we ask questions, we build telescopes, we write theories, we stare at the stars, not just for beauty, but for answers. Because one day, there will be no one left to ask, no stars to study, no atoms to rearrange, just entropy, just the cold. You were never meant to witness this, but you are. And now, you know, the universe will end. That much is certain. But before it does, it will grow darker, stranger, and quieter than you can possibly imagine. And that is just the beginning. You are still here. That matters more than you know. Because to continue listening, to continue wondering, that's resistance. Resistance against cosmic indifference, against silence, against the slow forgetting of everything that ever was. Part 1 was the whisper. Now, let us descend into the echo. Let's rewind the story. Let's go back not just billions, but trillions of years into the future. Past the time of darkness, past the era of black holes, past even the evaporation of the last remnants of matter. Welcome to the Dark Era, an epoch so far removed from now that even the word epic feels too short. There is no light, no stars, no galaxies, no atoms. The universe is a ghost of what it once was, a vast, expanding emptiness filled with particles so scattered, so cold, they may never interact again. Protons, the building blocks of matter, might themselves decay over unimaginable timescales, a trillion years, perhaps longer. But if they do, then even the last traces of matter vanish, leaving only radiation and subatomic whispers. If protons don't decay, then they drift endlessly, alone in a universe too vast to contain purpose. But here's the strange part: entropy doesn't stop. Even in nothingness, change occurs. Tiny fluctuations in quantum fields, virtual particles appearing and vanishing, a canvas of vacuum energy quietly simmering in the backdrop of eternity. This isn't nothing. It's a dynamic, restless void. It is in this void that new hypotheses emerge. What if this isn't the end, but a beginning of something else? The universe has been expanding. What if, in some far-off scenario, conditions reset? Some physicists suggest that a new universe could bubble out of the vacuum, a spontaneous quantum event, like the one that may have birthed our own. Imagine that, a new Big Bang, rising not from ashes, but from cold perfection. A cosmos born not of chaos, but of equilibrium pushed afar. Still, no one knows. The end we've discussed is only what we can model. What if our models are incomplete? What if dark matter isn't matter at all? What if dark energy evolves? What if there's a multiverse, and our universe is just one dying cell in a far greater organism? You're probably thinking that's philosophy. But no, this is science. Because in the quiet end, in the death of everything, we find the sharpest questions. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why can anything exist at all? Some scientists wonder whether information can ever truly be destroyed. Black holes, once thought to swallow information forever, may in fact emit it subtly through Hawking radiation, a phenomenon still debated. If that's true, then even in the universe's final moments, the ghosts of all things past may still whisper from the void, your birth, your thoughts, every star that ever shone, not gone, just scattered. Now imagine a being not human, not even biological, that exists in the cold, dark future. It doesn't need warmth or energy as we know it. It operates on subatomic Scales, conserving the tiniest flickers of usable energy, stretched across quadrillions of years. Is such life possible? Could intelligence exist that thinks on geological timescales? One computation per 1,000 years? We don't know, but if it is possible, then perhaps, just perhaps, the universe doesn't end with silence, but with contemplation, a final thought, and then nothing. But perhaps the end is an illusion. Perhaps time itself is emergent, a byproduct of entropy. And once entropy is spent, time vanishes. All events collapse into a single static state. No before, no after, just being. Some call this the ultimate death. Others call it stillness. And what do we call stillness when it follows a lifetime of motion? We call it rest. We call it peace. You're still here, against all odds, against entropy, against inevitability. And that persistence, that refusal to look away, it matters. Because what comes next isn't just about the death of stars or the silence of space. It's about something even more haunting, more personal. It's about meaning. What happens when the story ends and there's no one left to read it? We've traveled far into the future, seen the stars go out, watched the galaxies fade. Imagine black holes evaporate and protons decay. But here's a thought that will stretch your mind further than time itself. What if everything that dies returns? No, not through magic, not through mythology, but through science, through physics, through the bizarre, almost mystical implications of the equations that govern our reality. Some physicists believe that information can never truly be destroyed, that every atom, every photon, every quantum interaction is recorded in the fabric of space-time. If that's true, then the universe is not just a machine, it's a memory. And if the universe remembers, could it remember us? Let's talk about the concept of eternal recurrence. A theory as old as the Stoics, as maddening as Nietzsche's thought experiments, and now as scientific as Boltzmann's thermodynamics. The idea is simple. If the universe is infinite and time is eternal, then everything that can happen will happen again and again and again. That means you sitting here, listening, might one day live again. Not through reincarnation, not through a soul, but through physics. Given enough time, the same particles that make you might randomly reassemble into you again. The same thoughts, the same voice, the same moment. It's absurd. It's terrifying. And it's possible. Now consider another idea, the simulation hypothesis. If the future holds civilizations so advanced that they can simulate entire universes, then statistically speaking, we might already be inside one. Your memories, your sensations, your emotions, digital echoes in a computational dream. But this isn't about paranoia. It's about possibility. If the universe ends physically but survives informationally, then the essence of things might outlive form. You might outlive yourself. And what if in that last flicker of energy, before the final proton decays, there's a mechanism to restart everything? A cosmic reset button pressed by laws we haven't discovered yet. Some theories propose that the Big Bang was not the beginning, but a bounce. A rebound from a previous universe's collapse. So the question changes, is this the end, or a cycle? If it's a cycle, then everything returns, not as memory, not as ghost, but as repetition. The same universe, the same stars, the same lives. And that means we've been here before. You've listened to this before. You've wondered these thoughts before. You've asked the same impossible questions before. You just don't remember. There's no proof, no way to test it, but there are hints, mathematical fingerprints left in cosmic background radiation, patterns that suggest echoes, structures that repeat, a cosmos that might be telling the same story over and over, with slight variations. So where do we fit in? We're observers, the eyes of the universe, the only known instance of matter becoming aware of itself. And even if it all fades, even if silence wins, that awareness, fleeting as it is, changes everything. You see, the universe may not care, but we do. We name the stars. We mourn their deaths. We write poetry about galaxies. We build telescopes not just to measure but to marvel. And in doing so, we give the universe what it cannot give itself. Meaning, maybe that's our role. Maybe we're not the main characters, but the storytellers. Maybe our brief flash of consciousness is how the universe witnesses its own beauty, even as it dies. Maybe that's enough, because meaning doesn't need to last forever. It just needs to exist once, and you, right now, are part of that. The end isn't just a destination, it's a perspective. It asks us, What did you see? What did you love? What did you wonder? So here's a final question. Before we journey further, if everything ends, what will you leave behind? You're still here. That means something. Because now we must step beyond science, not to abandon it, but to stretch it, to ask not only how the universe ends, but why it began, and if that why even makes sense at all. You see, so far we've talked about decay, entropy, silence. But buried inside every scientific theory is a deeper mystery, not about how things function, but why they are permitted to function at all. Why are the laws of physics the way they are? Why do particles behave in exactly the manner required to form stars, planets, and life? Why is there something rather than nothing? Physicists call this the fine-tuning problem. Our universe seems exquisitely calibrated. If the fundamental constants, the speed of light, the gravitational constant, the strength of electromagnetism were altered by even the tiniest fraction, life as we know it would be impossible. Not just human life, any life. Atoms wouldn't hold together, stars wouldn't ignite, the universe would collapse, or never form at all. So here's the question. Is this precision an accident, a coincidence, or is it something else entirely? One answer is the anthropic principle. It argues that we shouldn't be surprised to find ourselves in a universe capable of supporting life because only such a universe would have observers like us. But that's not a real answer. It's an observation. Other scientists suggest the multiverse, that there are countless universes, each with its own laws, and we just happen to live in one where the conditions are right. But we have no direct evidence of these other universes, no way to test them. For now, they are beautiful guesses. And then, there's the possibility that the laws of physics aren't random, that they are inevitable, that any universe that exists must follow these rules, because these are the only rules that lead to structure, complexity, emergence. But what if even that isn't enough? What if science, for all its rigor, cannot answer the deepest why? At this point, some turn to philosophy, others to spirituality. But let's stay with science because it still has cards left to play. Quantum mechanics teaches us that reality is not deterministic, that particles exist in multiple states until observed, that causality is probabilistic, not absolute. So perhaps at the deepest level, reality isn't a machine. It's a question mark. String theory, loop quantum gravity, causal dynamical triangulations, these are attempts to describe the fabric beneath spacetime, to find the equation behind existence. But no single theory has yet prevailed. Still, all of them suggest one eerie truth. Space and time may not be fundamental. They may emerge from something else, from information, from geometry, from pure mathematical relationships, which leads us to a stunning possibility. What if the universe is math, not described by math, but literally, math? This is the mathematical universe hypothesis. It argues that all structures that can exist mathematically do exist physically, that the universe is not made of stuff, but of logic, ratios, equations. You are not made of cells or atoms or quarks, but of numbers. If this is true, then our existence was inevitable, not because of divine will or cosmic luck, but because the equations permitted it. And where equations allow something, reality follows. But even math cannot tell us why there is any structure at all. So we reach the border, the edge of knowability. And here, in this moment, something remarkable happens. We realize that not knowing is itself a kind of miracle. Because if the universe could be fully explained, it might be dead, predictable, static. But it's not. It surprises us. It confuses us. It demands a. So maybe the purpose of life is not to solve the mystery, but to experience it. To ask the impossible questions, to feel the immensity of not knowing, to wonder, again and again, why this universe, why you, are allowed to exist. That's not an answer. It's a calling, and it brings us to the next great frontier. If the universe ends, who will remember it was ever here at all? So far, we've stared into the abyss. We've watched galaxies die, stars fade, black holes evaporate, and time itself unravel. But there's one question we haven't fully asked yet. Who will remember? Not humans, we won't last. Not stars, they'll burn out. Not even atoms, they may decay. But memory is not just about neurons or paper or computer drives. It's about patterns, structures, imprints. What if the universe remembers itself? Let's go back to information theory, the idea that everything in the universe, from particles to thoughts, can be expressed as information. In this framework, entropy is not just disorder, it's information hidden from us. Black holes, for example, don't just swallow matter, they store information on their event horizons. The surface, not the inside, contains the record. That means when a black hole dies, it doesn't erase. It whispers, slowly, through Hawking radiation. It leaks the data it swallowed scrambled, yes, but not lost. If this is true, then the universe itself may act as a memory device. Every quantum interaction, every ripple of gravity, every burst of light leaves a trace. And those traces, though scattered and faint, never truly vanish. They echo. And now, consider this. What if intelligence not human, but advanced, patient, and eternal arises in the deep future? Long after our species is gone, long after stars have died, life as we know it may not be the only way the universe thinks. Post-biological life, AI, consciousness encoded in stable subatomic arrangements, or beings made entirely of information, might one day drift across the remnants of space, gathering these echoes. They would not speak as we do. They would not move or breathe, but they might listen. They might find the fingerprints of ancient stars, the rhythm of long-dead civilizations, the imprint of a spiral galaxy, and maybe the echo of a heartbeat. Yours. They might reconstruct history not as a film, but as a tapestry of entangled information, reassembling what once was from the shadows it left behind. Memory, not as a function of brain, but as the architecture of reality. But even this assumes something fundamental, that time continues. What if it doesn't? What if time is an illusion, a construct that only exists because entropy increases? If the universe ever reaches perfect entropy maximum disorder, then time itself stops. Not slows, not breaks, stops. And if time ends, then so does memory, unless there's another possibility. Some scientists believe in a holographic universe, the idea that all of 3D reality is a projection of 2D information encoded on a cosmic boundary. That space, time, gravity, even matter are emergent, not fundamental. If this is true, then your life is not just occurring in space, but on a surface of information. Every event you've lived through is part of a massive cosmic computation, a kind of universal hard drive, and in that case, nothing is ever truly lost. It just becomes inaccessible. But what if, in some corner of this vast cosmos, someone or something figures out how to read the code again? Then you wouldn't just be remembered, you'd be retrieved. This sounds like science fiction, but it's science. It's what physics allows, not what it guarantees, but what it permits. And in a universe this strange, permission is everything. So, maybe, just maybe, the end of the universe isn't the end of story. Maybe it's the beginning of its retelling, not by gods, not by myths, but by memory itself. By a universe that refuses to forget. So ask yourself, what if everything you are, every choice, every kindness, every question still matters? Not because it lasts, but because it happened. And in the grand equation of existence, what happens echoes. We are not just observers. We are imprints, and somewhere, deep in the future dark, maybe someone or something will find those imprints. And remember, imagine this. The universe has gone completely dark. No stars remain, no heat, no light, no life as we know it, just an endless, silent stretch of blackness. But the story isn't over. In fact, it's only now entering its final, most mysterious act. This is the era of black dwarf stars that once shined, now cooled into lifeless carbon husks. They drift through the dark, undetectable, invisible to any eye. But even in this death, something astonishing may still happen. Some physicists believe black dwarfs may one day explode in supernova-like events, not from nuclear fuel, but from quantum tunneling, a bizarre process where particles slip through barriers they shouldn't be able to cross. If true, this means the final fireworks of the universe could come not from fire, but from quantum whispers in the cold. Then, even those fade, and the last matter decays. This is the heat death of the universe. Entropy has won. All energy has spread evenly. There are no gradients, no thermodynamic free energy, no structures, only a smooth, flat, featureless cosmos at absolute zero. A state of maximum disorder that ironically looks like perfect calm. But is this really the end? Let's return to quantum mechanics. There's a concept called vacuum decay. Our universe might be in a false vacuum, a local energy minimum that feels stable, but isn't. A lower energy state could exist somewhere, else in the quantum landscape, and if it does, a bubble of this true vacuum could spontaneously appear and expand at the speed of light. If such a bubble hits us, it rewrites reality. Physics itself would change. The constants of nature, gravity, electromagnetism, even the masses of particles could be reset. Atoms could dissolve. Chemistry would break. Everything we know, gone, instantly. But in that annihilation, a new universe could be born. Not a continuation, a restart, a blank slate with different rules, different math, different possibilities. It wouldn't remember us, but we would have mattered. We would have triggered it. Now stretch your mind even further. There's a model called eternal inflation. It proposes that our universe is just one bubble in an ever-expanding foam of universes. Each bubble pops into being with different physical laws. And within each, time begins a new dot. In this view, the end of our universe is just a local phenomenon. The multiverse continues. It births more and more bubbles forever. New beginnings, rising from endless ends. But even if our universe is truly isolated, if there are no bounces, no new bubbles, no memory, there may still be potential. Because nothing true, nothing is unstable. In quantum field theory, the vacuum isn't empty. It teems with fluctuations. Particle-antiparticle pairs emerge and annihilate constantly. This means that from the void, reality can and does emerge, which leads to one of the most profound scientific possibilities. The universe may not just end. It may begin again, not as a continuation, not as a reincarnation, but as a fresh Genesis, born from the quietest silence. The next universe wouldn't be shaped by our physics, but its birth could be seeded by the quantum fields we leave behind. Our final echo might be the trigger for the next cosmic dawn. So when you ask, how does it all end? The answer may be, it does in single quotes. It transforms. The atoms in your body came from stars that died billions of years ago. Your thoughts are carried by particles forged in the Big Bang. Your voice, even now, stirs the air with ripples that may never be repeated and yet might one day ripple again. Not because the universe cares, but because it allows. And that permission, that silent, generous, infinite permission may be the closest thing we'll ever have to immortality. The end of the universe is not a wall, it's a mirror. It shows us what matters. Not permanence, but presence. Not survival, but experience. You are here, now. And that, against all cosmic odds, is enough. So breathe, feel, wonder. Because in the cold silence of a dying universe, wonder is warmth. The universe ends in silence, but from that silence, a final question emerges. Not about stars or entropy or quantum decay, but about us. Why did we look up? We didn't have to. We could have stayed in the caves, in the dark, focused on survival. But something inside us, fragile, foolish, and infinite, made us wonder, what are those lights in the sky? What is time? What am I? And that single question, asked by a thinking ape on a spinning rock, was enough to shake the cosmos. We built telescopes. We split atoms. We sent machines to other planets. We caught particles from the sun. We listened for echoes from the birth of time. We mapped the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, and found not just heat, but harmony. We didn't just exist, we tried to understand, and in doing so, we became part of the universe in a new way. Not as matter, not as energy, but as meaning. You see, the laws of physics don't require consciousness. Stars form, galaxies spin, gravity works. None of it needs minds, but somehow, this universe created brains. And those brains made stories, symbols, science, empathy. So maybe the final chapter of the universe isn't about collapse, or heat death, or rebirth. Maybe it's about this moment, because in a cold, unthinking cosmos, you think, you ask, you imagine what comes next. The atoms in your body were once inside stars. The thoughts in your mind trace patterns that mirror galaxies. You are not separate from the universe. You are its voice, its witness, its question, and maybe, just maybe, its answer. Think of everything we've done. We've decoded the DNA that writes life. We've created artificial minds. We've sent probes beyond our solar system. We've recreated conditions milliseconds after the Big Bang. We've photographed the shadow of a black hole. And still, we dream. We wonder about love and death and beauty. We create music and mathematics and machines. We search for others among the stars, not because we're afraid, but because we're curious. That curiosity is a spark. In the darkest reaches of space, it burns brighter than any sun. So what happens after the end? We don't know. And that not knowing is sacred because it means the story never truly ends. The universe may collapse, or freeze, or tunnel into something new. But as long as we exist, as long as minds exist, we carry forward the light, not in the form of photons, but in questions. In love. In the courage to look into the void and say, I am here. That's not science fiction, that's science. That's what we are. The atoms that dream. So when you look up at the night sky, remember, those stars are dying. But their light is not, and neither are you, because somewhere, someone might be listening. And as long as even one mind remembers, the universe is not gone. It is alive, can because it gave rise to you, and you gave it meaning. This is how the universe ends, not with a bang, not with a whisper, but with a question. What will you do with your light before it fades?